Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Okay. All right. I don't know.
You gotta love this live show stuff.
I know, that's the truth. When it's live, anything can happen. And we've been Facebook and Zoom between the two of them. It's been just challenging. Let me say that. Anyway, welcome to another edition of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm your host, Gwen Richardson, for tonight, and my co-host, with her beautiful face. She's on too. So we have some announcements we're going to make after this first interview. We have one book to give away. We have an amazing lineup of guests tonight. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our very first guest. And her name is Avery Cunningham. We're going to go first guest. Something's going on there. I hear some feedback.
We're good.
Okay. All right. Avery Cunningham has a new book that's really setting the world on fire, and it's called The Mayor of Maxwell Street. And we welcome her to Black Authors Matter TV, and she has a copy of her book in hand. I had ordered my book, and I thought I was going to get it today so I could show you that I have it, but it won't be here till tomorrow.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
She just had the book ready.
Yeah, but you had it ready, so that was good.
I mean, the cover is beautiful. I have to take any opportunity to show off this cover.
It is a beautiful cover. It's a beautiful cover, and I love the font. I'm a big font person.
Yeah.
And I don't like font that looks like something I could have typed on the computer. And so when I see something that just it goes very well with the artwork behind it. They complement each other very well.
Yes, ma'am.
It's very professional and it's beautiful, and I like it.
Thank you. I'm very happy. The designer is Amanda Hudson of Face Out Studio, and she did an excellent job. She's an award-winning artist, so I'm really, really grateful.
Okay, and it looks like it's a hefty book. It looks like it's at least 300 pages.
More. It's about a solid 500, I think. I think we.
It's not a 300-page book, Gwen.
Okay, I said at least 300. I didn't want to overshoot, So
did you say it's 500 pages?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Just about.
So that's interesting because we talk about that on this show quite a bit, where authors come on the show and they're leaning toward the shorter books. Why did you decide to shoot for a longer book?
I think that's really just my natural form of storytelling. I love longer narratives. Some of my favorite novels are traditionally very long, and I love the chance to tell a story in its fullness, in every detail and every exploration of that story and those characters. And I've always leaned towards larger stories, or longer stories, I should say. And especially for historical fiction, I feel like that's just really the perfect type of genre or environment for opportunities to tell a lengthier, meatier, more in-depth story.
And I do agree with that. When it comes to historical fiction, we don't want a shorter historical fiction book. It's got to be longer. We've got to be able to chew on the book and visualize and experience it. And you can't really do that with a shorter historical fiction.
Right. And at least that was my goal. And that's my hope, that this is a book that readers really can luxuriate in.
Well, longer books are great if they move. So a 500-page book doesn't intimidate me at all. It doesn't scare me. Some people are like, if it's over 300, they won't even try. But a longer book is great if it's great storytelling. So I can't wait to dig into your book, and I didn't realize it was 500 pages, but the more the merrier. I am loving that. And you focus on Chicago as your setting, and it's the Prohibition era Chicago. And you have sort of the upper crust of Black society as backdrop for the story. So, one, are you from Chicago?
No, I am not from Chicago originally. I was born and raised in Jackson, Tennessee. I was born and raised in Jackson, Tennessee, which was about an hour outside of Memphis, 4 hours outside of Nashville. But I did live in Chicago all through my undergrad and graduate school education. I attended DePaul University. And so I was
Okay.
there for about 5.5 years. So I like to think of myself as an honorary Chicagoan. If you ask some Chicagoans, they might disagree with you. But I have a great love for the city. It's the city that made me. It's the city that really gave me the opportunities and the encouragement and the freedom that led me to this novel and this stage in my career. So any chance to explore that city's history and really try to honor all the love I have for that community is great for me.
Okay. Well, I'm familiar with Jackson, Tennessee.
Oh, really? Oh, thank goodness.
And I because
Let's give that to Gwen because I'm
yeah,
not.
I'm in Houston, and my daughter went to school at North Carolina Central, which is in Greensboro.
Mm-hmm.
And we would have to do road. She's out of school now, thank God. But and my family's from North Carolina too. So
Mm.
we would do road trips, and we would when we would take her to school and bring her back,
Mm-hmm.
we would take Texas 59, which takes you all the way to Arkansas, going north,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go through Arkansas to Interstate 40, which
Right.
takes you all through Tennessee to North Carolina. Well, our halfway point where we would spend the night was in Jackson, Tennessee.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
now on a
wonderful.
21-hour road trip, the
Oh,
halfway
goodness.
mark was Jackson. So that was
Right.
that was what I know about Jackson, spending the night at the Red Roof Inn.
Oh, wow. Oh, I know exactly where that is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, I hope you enjoy each of your overnight stays in Memphis.
It was
Or
there
excuse me,
were many,
Jackson.
many, 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 many of them. And so yes, we enjoyed them. So but Tennessee is a very beautiful state.
It
Uh,
is. It is. Yes,
a lot.
ma'am.
It's one of America's best kept secrets in terms of just beauty on a road trip, that
Mm.
you can really see the mountains, and you have the little enclaves and stuff. But anyway, let's get back to your book in Chicago in the Prohibition era. So, what this is your debut novel, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That's
Yes,
what I
ma'am.
read. Okay. Have you written any other novels that weren't published?
Oh, certainly. And those novels will never see the light of day. And I've been an aspiring writer for as long as I can remember. I think I wrote my first true blue novel when I was maybe about 12 years old, which was, another very long book
Oh,
that was
that's
very,
great.
very bad. And
Okay.
and so I've tried
Very, very
often.
bad.
I thought, well, as a young person, when I was 12, I thought this is the best thing anyone has ever written, of course, obviously. But now, as an adult person, I read back over it and say that poor ambitious child didn't know what she was doing. But yes, I've certainly written other novels that have not been published. But I certainly think this experience was unique out of all of the other opportunities I had to write. The story was very unique, and I'm really grateful that this is my kind of first introduction to publishing.
Now, this is your first novel,
Mhm.
but are you an experienced writer? Because and the reason why I asked this is because this is a very ambitious project for a first-time author.
Yes, ma'am. I am an experienced writer. I suppose I've gone through all of the programs. Like, well, I'll say to speak clearly, I went through undergrad and grad school for writing. So this has been something professionally I've been trying to build up for some time. But yes, you're right. It is very ambitious, and something that I've learned about myself that many of my projects are ambitious. And I think I just have such a love for stories and for these ideas and for these characters that I really try to honor them to the fullest extent in my work.
Wonderful.
So when you pitched the book, had you written the whole book, or did you do like the first three chapter thing with the agent? How did you?
Right, yes, ma'am. This did sell on proposal. So I submitted a outline, synopsis, comparable titles, things like that. And then I think it was the first two chapters, which was about 35, 40 pages, I think. Yes, ma'am. And so, no, when the book was sold, I certainly did not have it all written. The
Oh,
deadline was
okay.
pretty tight, but I think that gave me a brand new appreciation and understanding of being a professional writer, what it takes to be a professional writer, how, it really removed the myth of writing, that you can't just wait for the muse to hit. You don't just, as Hemingway said, sit down at the typewriter and bleed. You have to be consistent. You have to practice a level of discipline in order to produce at a level that's really expected of a professional writer right now. So I think this was a great learning experience as far as that goes.
I think a muse is kind of it's kind of a myth. I think it's something really romantic to say.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, a muse is um, we it's just having that motivation to write.
Right.
So I think sometimes we say we're waiting for the muse to visit us or the muse to hit us. We're almost making an excuse for ourselves not to write. We just need to write.
Right.
Even if it's not the best, sometimes we just need to write. And I think as much as I'm saying that, it's a reminder to myself as well,
Mm.
so that we don't have to wait for the stars to align and the lightning to strike. All we have to do is just start to write. And even if it's not the best, we can always go back and fix it later.
Right, exactly. As many of my mentors have always said, you can't edit what you haven't written. So the only way to improve upon your writing is to write. And
Right.
even if it means forcing your way through points that are frustrating, or when you have writer's block, or when you know that you're not hitting the tone or the essence that you really want to hit, working through that is the only way you have a chance to go back and try to, find the real polished heart of the story.
Absolutely, absolutely. So can you tell us about the story?
Yes, of course. So, The Mayor of Maxwell Street is a work of historical fiction. It's about an ambitious Black debutante who enlists the help of an underground speakeasy proprietor to help hunt down the head of an underground crime syndicate in Prohibition era Chicago. It's really a story about intrigue, mystery, a little bit of romance, but at its heart, I feel like it's a story about identity, and especially for individuals, Black Americans, people of color living in the 1920s, which was such a pivotal and transformative time in American history, what individuals really had to do, what sacrifices they might be willing to make in order to achieve what they saw as the American dream, to achieve their own ambitions in, a very oppressive world that forced people to really maintain a status quo.
Wow. Now, when you were contemplating the book, what made you settle on this period in Chicago? I know it's kind of famous for the Prohibition era. Think about
Mhm.
Al Capone and all of that took place during that time. But you could have done any number of eras in Chicago history.
Mhm.
What made you settle on this one?
Well, I feel like the 20s were, as I said, so pivotal for American history, that this was a period of great wealth, of great poverty, of incredible excess that was all going to become crashing down. It was a time of the rise of organized crime, and it was a time when so many different borders of America were starting to blur a little bit. And by what I mean by that is when you're talking about, like, say, the Great Migration, when, millions of Black Americans came out of the South and started moving and populating these northern and western and eastern cities very quickly. In some ways, over the course of a few months, they would change the entire demographic of a city. And that allowed so many new interactions between cultures and ethnicities. And a lot of times that could have resulted in violence, where you see these cities that might have lauded themselves as very progressive really start to have to come to terms with their own biases in terms of how they were treating these newcomers to their cities. And as you said, it's a very, how to say, famous time for the Capones and the Italian crime families, but it's also such a vibrant history, and incredibly rich, all the different layers of what was happening in this city, when you talk about from going to government to going to individual households to street level interactions. The music that came out of Chicago during this time spread throughout the country. And we were talking about the blues, talking about even aspects of jazz. And so it felt like a heart. It felt like if you were going to have any kind of picture or still life of America in the 1920s, it would be in Chicago.
I agree. I mean, Chicago is that is like the mecca for historical fiction.
Mhm.
Yeah, because there's been several new books
Yeah.
based in Chicago. The author, Tracy Clark, who came on the show
Mm.
a month ago or so, and her books are based in Chicago.
Mhm.
But it's contemporary. But there's been a lot of books where Chicago is the setting for it in
Right.
different time periods.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's a fantastic city, and I'm really happy to see this new era where individuals are really starting to use it as a setting because it is so vibrant and unique.
Mhm. Now that you said you study writing in English, did you also study history in college, or is this just something that you a personal passion?
Well, I guess it's interesting. I suppose if you're a student of literature, you have to be a student of history because how different writers wrote in different time periods, what they were writing about, what they cared about, what their audience cared about, is really already hinges so much on what times they were living in. So, especially coming up through my program, it was a very literary program, and when we're learning about all these different eras of narrative and storytelling to understand these poems or stories or short stories or novels or plays, it's so important to be as familiar with the history as possible because that informs so much of the writer's individual choices and informs a little bit of how maybe we as readers were meant to perceive and understand it. Like say for example, there is so many plays from different eras that were meant to be direct commentaries on governments of the time, on leaders of the time, individual scandals or changes in legislation at the time. So being aware of that, having that knowledge and having that familiarity with that history just fills out the entire reading experience. And I think that's why I've always been drawn to historical fiction because it's a world outside of just the story. So much is pivotal other than just what these individual characters are experiencing. It gives the reader a kind of dramatic irony where you're aware of the stakes of the wider world and you get to see how these characters are maneuvering through all of these different challenges and how they're preparing for things that maybe the reader knows are going to eventually come.
I think I like historical fiction because it paints history just in a different stroke. And what I
Mm,
mean by that is it's one thing to read about something and to know that this happened,
mhm,
but when we see it in the realm of historical fiction, we actually get to see how these historical facts, actually affected people.
mm,
So
right.
even if the people aren't real people, we get to see, we get to imagine how this may have affected real life. And so I think it gives us a better appreciation often for history. So that's one of the reasons why I like historical fiction.
Yes, exactly. I think that's entirely true. And when you have so many writers talking about such interesting and little known time periods, it expands so much of just popular culture's knowledge of the world that they're living in, and really fills out, our, like you said, appreciation for our history and all of its facets.
Right.
Yeah. So tell us about your main character who is depicted on the cover.
Yes.
Who's the book's heroine or uh,
Yes, exactly. Well, heroine's
protagonist,
and
whatever.
it is an interesting word. A lot of people will say that Nellie Sawyer is the villain of her own story, but um, Nellie Sawyer, she is a how to say it? Let's start this. Well, Nellie Sawyer, at this time when we're starting the novel, she is the daughter and recently the only child of the professed richest black man in America at this time in the world of this novel. Her family specializes in Kentucky horse breeding and has become very wealthy and achieved a lot of prestige through that. And when we first meet her, it's at a really sad point at the funeral of her brother in Chicago. And this serves as not only a chance for her to say goodbye and grieve her brother's loss, but it kind of launches her into this new realm of society where her family is kind of a nouveau riche element trying to incorporate themselves into the world of the original Black upper class and the talented 10th and so forth. And so she's going along this experience over this summer, learning how to be a society woman and really achieve all of her family's great expectations for her. But also, she has been moonlighting as an investigative reporter for the Chicago Defender. And we really get to see some of the highs of the story when she takes on a job trying to find the mayor of Maxwell Street, this elusive underground crime syndicate figure for the Chicago Defender, so she can write a piece about him. And so she's a character who's walking very much two lines. One of the inspirations for the book as a whole was The Great Gatsby, especially thematically speaking. And this idea of individuals being a part of something, whether that be a community or an organization or a class or even a race or a lifestyle, but yet feeling apart from it, and how you have to straddle those lines and how you really decide who you are and what determines your identity, what identity you want to lean into. And Nellie Sawyer's entire journey is really about finding herself and deciding the kind of person she wants to be.
Okay, so is the mayor of Maxwell Street, is he Black or white?
Oh, that's a big mystery. I cannot give any of that away.
Okay. Okay.
Now I really need to read the book.
Yeah. See, and it's good to keep some things a secret.
Right, yes,
When
ma'am.
you write, Rhonda and I are both writers, so we understand the process. So but that's really great and interesting. And why is the mayor of Maxwell Street what people call this character?
Right, exactly. This figure, this hidden figure that Nellie and a few other people are trying to find is called the Mayor of Maxwell Street. And for those who are familiar with Chicago, you'll recognize the name Maxwell Street. It's the name of a particular street or area in the city that's known for its market, the Maxwell Street Market. And the wonderful thing about this market, which has existed for well over 100 years, even though it's moved locations recently because of construction, but as an entity, it's existed for over 100 years. And the great thing about Maxwell Street as a community was that if you had something to sell, then you were welcome. That it was not a place that segregated. It was not a place that tried to slot people into different groups. Essentially, if you can make it on Maxwell Street, you can make it anywhere. And that theme of being able to cross racial boundaries and ethnic boundaries, and how to find really the heart of Chicago as a city across all of these different groups of people, whether that be socioeconomic differences or racial or ethnic differences or even gender differences. The mayor of Maxwell Street is someone who kind of operates in that shadow realm, that operates in that ability to create connections and to reach across different lines. And as you go through the story, you start to understand how this character is really embodying a new era in Chicago, a new era in America, really.
Well, I had a feeling that the mayor of Maxwell Street wasn't the actual elected mayor.
No, that at this time that was Mayor Thompson. They called him Mayor Big Bill Thompson. He wore a very big hat.
I love it.
Okay.
So now you actually have a couple of appearances coming up. You're going to be in Tuscaloosa, Alabama on the 16th and Brentwood, Tennessee on the 24th. And then you're going to be in Decatur on April 19th.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. Yes, I'll be this upcoming Saturday. I'll be at Ernest and Hadley's Booksellers in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And then the week after that, I will be in the Nashville area, Brentwood, at the Brentwood Library. That is a public event. I'll also be doing a private event with the Zeta sorority. They've chosen the mayor of Mac. Yep, I saw you back there.
Oh, see, did you see?
My daughter's a Zeta too. But I'm not Greek, but I support the Zetas because my daughter's a Zeta. And Rhonda, one of my best friends, is a Zeta. So
yes. We love the Zetas. I'm also not Greek, but I love all of the sororities, all of the divine.
Yes,
kind.
I
But,
support them all. Especially,
exactly.
when they're, it's a good thing. They're doing good works and they have lots of fun,
Oh yes,
and
definitely.
they have great camaraderie.
Now,
Yes, ma'am.
look, I did all of that all of that commotion. I didn't even hear what you said you were
No,
doing.
no, it's okay. The Zeta chapter for the state of Tennessee chose the Mayor of Maxwell Street as their inaugural monthly book club selection. So they will be hosting a luncheon in Nashville on the 23rd of March. So if there are any Nashville Zetas listening, or anyone in I guess that would be, yes, East Tennessee area, who would like to attend, then I hope to see you all there. That is a private event; it's not public, only for area Zetas. But on the 24th, that's Sunday, there will be a public event held at the Brentwood Library. And then on April 19th, we'll be in Decatur, Georgia, which is right outside of Atlanta, and we'll be having another book signing there. But yes, to stay in contact and stay in touch and see all the places we're going, the things we're doing, just follow me on Instagram. I'm at Avery Writes Big Books. And then on Facebook, I'm Avery Cunningham Author.
And we did put your website in the chat.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
So if anybody missed any of those dates and you would like to reach out, please go to the website and check out Miss Avery's book, check out her events and what she has coming up. And I'm looking forward to reading this story. Now, I see that's a hardback that you're showing us right now. Is it also in paperback, ebook, audiobook?
Yes, all of the above. Now, this was a Book of the Month Club pick. So this is the Book of the Month Club edition that I'm holding right now. It was printed in hardcover. I'm afraid all the hardcovers have been sold out nationally. I don't think there are any hardcovers left in the US. But there are plenty of paperbacks still. And then, of course, an ebook edition. And then the audio was just narrated by the wonderful Bonnie Turpin. I highly recommend the audio edition. Listening to her perform my book was like experiencing it for the first time. So if you're an audio listener, I highly recommend the audiobook.
But the schedule that I have, I'm a huge proponent of audiobooks. I love audiobooks. And for anybody who might be wondering, I use Audible. However, the Libby app is another good app if you want to listen to books and not have to buy them. I hate to say that because I know we're all authors and we want to.
I understand.
But you can, the Libby app is a great app it's like checking audiobooks out of the library. So if you don't want to pay I believe it's $14.95, I think it's $16.95 now a month for Audible, Libby is a great alternative.
That's very true.
Let's make sure that we support these books. I will be doing the audiobook just because I move around too much and I just don't have time to sit down and read. But Gwen, she is the person who would rather hold the book in her hand.
Yeah.
And
I like the physical book. So thank you so much, Avery. Congratulations and continued success with your debut novel.
Thank you.
And I look forward to reading it. I look forward to getting my copy tomorrow.
Thank you. I certainly hope you enjoy it. And thank you everyone who joined in and listened to our conversation. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Have a great evening.
Yes, ma'am. Y'all take care.
You too. Okay, so we have a few announcements before we bring on our next guest. And number one, the Black Authors Matter TV Awards for 2024. The voting starts next Tuesday, March 19th. So we'll announce it again. There'll be a link on the Book Festival's Facebook page, as well as the Book Festival's website. So, and the BlackAuthorsMatterTV.com website. So, we always have an amazing time with our voting and then having the finalists and our award show, which takes place in May. I don't have the exact date in front of me, but it's in the middle of May somewhere. And that'll be great. We'll announce that date as we get closer. But next Tuesday is when the voting actually starts. Then our early registration for the National Black Book Festival ends March 31st for authors who want to be vendors. Our registrations this year are 50% higher than they were this time last year. So we expect to sell out of space in June at the latest. So if you want, I will
tell you, Gwen, one of the authors who was in my Black History Month Literary Weekend has told me that she has already registered to be a part of the National Black Book Festival. So we're planning on traveling to Houston together this year. And so
Okay.
she's a new author. She does speculative fiction, and we don't have a lot of that. So I'm really looking forward to her being there. I think she's going to do really well with your event.
Okay, well, it is really the space is going fast, and all of our seminar slots are all gone. The last one was secured today. People have snatched those slots up. We normally have 5 on Saturday that we allow authors to sponsor. They're all gone. So it's going to be amazing, and we're looking forward to it. Finally, the Children's Book Award process for the Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards, that process is underway. If you have a children's book or you know a children's author that may want to submit their book for this year, that the deadline is not till June. I think it's June 3rd. It's the early part of June. So you have time, but that process is underway. And we're giving away one book tonight. We're giving away The Other Princess by Denny S. Bryce. Now, Denny will be our guest at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock if you're on the East Coast tonight with her new book. So she's been writing like up a storm, but we're going to be giving away this book. So we'll do that at the end of her interview. So our next guest is with Diane Marie Brown. And her book, Black Candle Women, has really been setting the world on fire. It was selected as a Jenna Bush read. And so she's doing very well with it. So we're excited to have her as a guest on Black Authors Matter TV. And as soon as she connects, we'll be able to see her face. It says joining, so we just don't see her face yet.
Yeah, I don't see it, but
Yeah, it says joining. So I admitted her. And so, well, while we're waiting on her to connect, we may as well do the trivia. Oh, there she is. So we'll see the camera's on, but I don't see the microphone yet. It's a little tiny picture. I don't see the microphone yet, but it says it's connecting. So this book is really an exciting read. I haven't read it yet, but it's on my list of to be read and books. Also, it's been out about a year, so it's really been able to make the rounds. And I think I saw that the paperback won't be out until July. I think it was July that I saw when the paperback will be released. But Diane Marie Brown, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Hello, thanks for having me.
You're
thank you
welcome.
for being here. And I'm loving our guests who have been coming on and all of the pretty books behind them. I hope that's really your background. Is that really your background?
It is.
Yes. Okay. So it's
really good virtual backdrop. So I have
some people do have really great virtual backgrounds, but it's good that it's books, especially if you're an author. So do you have a copy of your book handy with you?
Sure.
And it's called Black Candle Women, as I said, and this is a generational novel. So tell us the core plot of the book.
Sure. Well, Black Candle Women tells a story of of 4 generations of women who live together in the same house. They live mostly isolated from the rest of the world because they are dealing with a deadly curse that kills anyone with whom they fall in love. They're forced to wrestle the curse when the youngest brings home a love interest for the first time, and because she doesn't realize that there's been a curse. And we go back to 1950s New Orleans to learn about the curse's origin put into place by a voodoo sorceress.
Okay, now For so many different reasons, I need this book. Being from New Orleans, and I feel like it's serendipitous because I was going through my Audible store just recently and ran across Black Candle Women. So and then all of a sudden you pop up and you were on the list for us to interview. I was like, oh, maybe I should read this book.
I would love for you to read it. So yes.
I'm sure. Yeah. This sounds like a great book with a lot of different layers. Did this take a lot of research for you to bring all of these layers together?
Yes. So I originally had the idea a long time with a class I was taking, and I don't even remember the prompt, but that's where I came up with this family of women. And I thought of them being cursed. I was kind of thinking of generational curses, and that's kind of a theme that's in the book. But I also thought it would be fun to have an actual curse. And so I came up with this family. I wanted them to be tied to New Orleans, and it just evolved from there. So eventually I got the idea for there to be some connection to voodoo and hoodoo, and that is where a lot of the research came into place. And the more research I did, the larger that element became of the book. So it just kind of gave me more ideas and evolved.
Wow. And is the plot, it sounds different from other plots. Let me say that. It's not a plot that you hear about regularly. I don't remember, and I'm an avid reader. I don't remember another book with this exact plot. Now, and don't give away anything in this, don't give away any spoilers. But if there's a curse and they can't, like, how do they keep the generations going? Is that something we have to find out in the book?
Well, no, what happens is they might have, an affair with somebody, or maybe even had a love interest that they really cared about. But within a matter of time, after they've become pregnant or once they've had a child, the men in most of the cases will die. They learn that the men die. But the person who puts the curse into place verbalizes this. So it's not like something that they just kind of figure out. The Bellanova, who is the voodoo sorceress, she tells Augusta, who's a matriarch of the family, that she is cursing her. And she has a very specific reason for doing so that we learn about when we go through her story.
Okay. So does the book, this is plot of the book, the setting, is it New Orleans, or do they leave New Orleans and go somewhere else?
Yes. So part of the Great Migration, we saw people leaving the South and going to Chicago, going to the East Coast, and some people went to California. So in this case, we have the family who came out to California, similar to what my parents did. They're from Louisiana and they moved out to California. Okay. And haven't really gone back, even though they have connections there. But we do go back to New Orleans through the matriarch story. So there is some time spent there in the book.
Okay, so it kind of goes back in time, and the storyline goes from past to present, and so we get some of that.
Yes.
Okay, well, that sounds interesting. This must be historical night, because the next guest is historical too.
The other layer to this is there's so much mystery to New Orleans. I went on the so-called haunted ghost tour in New Orleans.
He or she says, "I will not be ignored."
Yes. My dog gets jealous if I'm talking to other people.
Yeah, we have a cat that
I
does
went
that.
on a haunted ghost tour in New Orleans, and it really wasn't, for me, it wasn't scary, but it unpeeled a piece of history that, being from New Orleans, I don't think that we always appreciate the amount of history and mystery that's a part of the city. We almost kind of take it for granted. So when we do the tourist thing and we actually get to walk around and learn a little bit more about our city and all of the mystery that underlies the history of the city, it makes us appreciate it more. So when I went on this tour, and I learned about things that weren't exactly scary, but it was interesting, those different pieces of history. And so when I'm listening to you talk about this book, even though they eventually kind of leave New Orleans, I'm still hearing a lot that relates to that mystery and that intrigue of the city that people just don't think about every day.
Yes, that's very true. And what they do is they bring that with them. And we see it in their daily practices, and they've integrated it into their work lives. So I don't want to say the main character, because they're kind of all main characters, but Victoria, she is a marriage and family therapist, and we see her bringing in some practices and some beliefs in her own way into her work with her clients. Maybe not the best thing to do. And her sister, who is more a hoodoo practitioner, she also does what she can to try to help out her sister's clients. She works as her sister's receptionist, and maybe doing some work behind her back, using some techniques that she learned from her grandmother many years ago.
Okay. So, is this your debut book? Did I read that?
It's my
Okay.
first book published. I've written other books. This is the
Okay.
first published, yes.
Okay. Well,
That's another thing. It's the night of the debut authors.
yeah.
who had
There's
very
been multiple books.
project.
That
I mean,
that book took off. Whose book has really taken off and done very well. Now you're
Yeah.
the first. Were you going to say something, Rhonda?
No, I was just saying it's a very aggressive project for a first-time author.
Yeah.
We've said this on the show a few times, that often an author's first book is a semi-autobiography because they want to write about themselves in a fictional way. But you went an entirely different route with your debut novel. Why did you choose to make this your first piece? Did you just want to throw?
Yeah, well, the first book that I wrote was a lot closer to who I am, you could probably call it. Maybe not autobiographical, but the protagonist had a lot of similarities to me. And I had an agent for that book, but she was never able to sell it. And so she pitched it for maybe a year and a half or 2 years. And so just kind of let that go and moved on. And that's when I decided, well, then I wrote another book and that one didn't really go anywhere. And so I decided to go to school and work on my craft, and was connected to some really great instructors who are working professionals, a program that I went through. And I think I just kind of fine-tuned my writing skills, learned a little bit more about pacing and some elements that maybe I wasn't as developing as well before. And then even with that book, even with this book, it still took a long time for me to get it published. And so I was just gonna say earlier, it's just kind of all timing. This happened to be the right time for this book for me.
Mm. Now we've had some, at least one, I think I want to say two, but people whose books were picked by Reese Witherspoon. But you're the first that we had that had a book that was a Jenna Bush read.
Mhm.
So how did that come about?
Yeah, that was a really wonderful surprise. So I finished my book about 10 months before the uh, published publishing date. And it was still a little, I'd say like a 95% finished draft, because they want to be able to send it out to journalists, magazines, to influencers. They want it to be reviewed, and then they send, typically, if it's the kind of book that they consider kind of book club fiction, they'll send it out to the book clubs. And so I knew they wanted it early to send out to just everyone, but I wasn't even thinking about the book clubs because I didn't think they did anything that early. So in August of 2022, I was contacted by my editor and my agent that they wanted to talk to me. And I was kind of scared because I don't really talk to my editor very much, a lot through email, but we don't really talk on the phone very much. And so they called and they shared the news that it had been selected and by Jenna Bush Hager for as a Read with Jenna pick and would be featured on the Today Show, and that she was starting a production company and also wanted to option it. So it was a lot of
Wow.
big information in one phone call. And so I was in a lot of shock for a while. And I couldn't tell anyone, which was
Okay,
the
yeah.
hard part, but still, still I was just extremely happy. I told my husband, but nobody else.
Yeah, when they do those kinds of things, it's like on the Voice or American Idol, people can't tell people
Yeah.
that they made the cut, and they have to keep that to themselves for months. That has
Yes.
to be difficult. So one of our regular viewers has a comment. She said her book club just read your book and discussed it, and she said they had a few questions that made us wonder about certain paths you took.
But you got to go to the next comment.
Oh, she said it looks like you were having fun with the character of Victoria because she didn't catch a popular play on words. Her morning appointment was someone called Beyonce. Not Beyonce, but two names, Beyonce.
Yes. Victoria's she's kind of the most straight-laced of the family members, not into pop culture, doesn't have a quick sense of humor because she feels kind of a burden on her shoulder, probably more than anyone else. And she's kind of the caretaker of the family. Whereas all the other characters, I think they have a lot more fun in life, I guess, or fun playing around in life, especially her sister. And so that was kind of her sister trying to play with her a little bit.
So, that reminded me of several different period shows I've seen. One was the Black version of Sense and Sensibility, and the other one was Queen Charlotte, where they had the orchestra or like the band playing contemporary songs.
Oh yeah.
With the violin.
Yes.
Actually, I don't know if you caught it. And last week we were talking about roots, and during the wedding party, they were playing a John Legend song, but they did it with the
violin.
And I kept saying that sounds so.
It sounds familiar. But I think that's really great because it really makes it kind of pulls it into the now, even though it is a period, when it's a period show or movie or series or whatever. So,
Yeah,
so
I
what
think it's
happened
really
with
fun
the
for
Jenna
them.
Bush read? Like, does she have a book club? Like, is it a conversation where it's a group of people, or is it just her kind of endorsing a book?
It's probably more the latter, although so she typically has the authors on the show at the very end of the month where they're selected, and they will they might bring in a local book club, or for mine, they had people who had read the book in virtually to ask questions. And so in that sense, that's why it's called a book club. It just, and I they just try to change it up from month to month, depending
Mhm.
upon the book. They might do a little something different.
So I'm sure that really helped with book sense.
Yes, it, especially as a debut, it's hard to be seen. It's hard to be seen for a lot of reasons, even more established writers, right? Because every Tuesday you have 10, 15, 20 new books
That come
coming
out.
out and taking place on the shelf.
Mhm.
And so it can be hard, especially with booksellers and publishers trying to figure out, what is the book we really want to push. And oftentimes it's not going to be your debut author or your debut author, your Black debut author, right?
Right.
So it's it was really beneficial and helpful, and I'm very grateful because it gave the book a platform that I think it definitely wouldn't have had otherwise.
Just out of curiosity, was it during Black History Month when they did it?
Well,
Do you
my book came
remember?
out on February 28th, so it was a March pick. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
not.
So, okay. So I was just wondering if, sometimes that's when you get the plug in,
Right.
for some people. So you can't knock it. It's just it is what it is. Sometimes if you didn't have Black History Month, you wouldn't get an opportunity at all. So
Right. Yeah. And it was kind of funny because I of course I knew I was a pick. And so when February came around before my book came out, I was very pleased that the February author was Black. And I'm like, all right, we got 2 months in a row.
oh, do you remember who it was?
Jessica George, she wrote Momming.
Okay, I don't know. I have to look that up.
If I'm
Yeah,
on the show.
Are you familiar with that one, Rhonda?
No, I'm not.
There's
might have
I
seen
think
that.
I've seen that cover. I've seen that, but I didn't know what it was about. So I have to investigate more. There's so many books, and so
There
we
are
try to
so
get as many people on as we can.
that is
So,
wonderful.
do you have, did you get a 2 book deal or a 3 book deal?
I just have a one book deal. So I am busy working on my next book and hoping to sell that very soon.
Okay, so is it going to be a sequel to this one, or will it be a standalone?
It is a standalone, but um I kind of like the speculative element, although I didn't find my book to be, I didn't really think about it as speculative, but it's kind of been labeled that way. And so I'm kind of going in that direction full force. And this one definitely will have magic. Because some people don't, for people who are practitioners of voodoo and hoodoo, they, that's just what they believe, right? They don't see it as magic, but that's why it's been known as a speculative book, but I really kind of like playing around with those magical elements, or just having one magical element and everything else is very grounded and normal. So that's how the 2 books would be connected.
Okay, so that's kind of like your signature for now.
For now, and I also have
Because
a
it can
third book.
change.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, my third book, if I'm able to get to the third, which I pray that I am, it's straight up romantic comedy. So No magic.
Okay, well, that could be, romance is magic.
True.
I was just gonna say, you're totally giving me Children of Blood and Bone vibes. When you were talking about the magic, because that was a huge theme in that story.
Yeah.
If you haven't read that, it's a good book. And I believe it's actually a young reader, but it was so good. I was into it too. So
Yeah, I
Yes,
think it is. I
I
think it is young adult fiction.
yes, I
yeah,
know of it, but I haven't read it yet.
yeah, it's a young adult. But when I started reading, I was like, man, this is good enough for adults to enjoy. I guess it's kind of like Harry Potter, where that was really supposed to be for young adults or kids, and adults got into it. Children of Children of Blood and Bone was kind of on that same realm. But when you talk about magic, that's what it reminded me of, because like I said, it's such a huge theme in stories, and because I almost don't even feel like you can incorporate magic into a book and then it takes a back seat. It
Right.
kind of fights to be on that front row. See me, I'm here.
Yes, that's definitely the case. And so yeah, it's just a matter of crafting the story so that whatever that magical element is, your readers can suspend their disbelief. If it's something different, you know, it takes some time to build that world, or make sure that people understand the rules without hitting them over the head with the rules, right? So yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're just about at the top of the hour, but Stephanie Burnham once again said that Ava DuVernay made comments about your book, and she wants to know if she may be considering adapting it to film.
No, Ava read an early version of the book. She is an old friend of mine, and so I asked her to read it, and if she felt led, if she could provide a blurb, and which she did, which was very generous of her. But we went to UCLA together.
Well,
Oh,
that's wonderful that she went ahead and made comments about the book, or that she kind of gave her stamp of approval on that book. That's amazing.
Yes,
So it's good to have good friends.
it is.
yeah, she's a name that people know.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, she does wonderful work. So to have her name on my book was just incredible, and another thing to be very grateful for.
Well, Diane, congratulations again on your success with your book. Can you show your cover one more time for our viewers who may not have joined us at the very beginning? It's called Black Candle Women. And now, does the title, did you pick the title or did the publisher pick the title?
We went through a lot of titles together, but that is the one that, of our long list that we brainstormed, that's the one that I selected.
Okay. Well, congratulations again. And thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV and sharing your journey with us and with our viewers. And
Yeah.
I plan to get my copy. I hadn't gotten it yet, but I do plan to get my copy of Black. But I've been hearing about it for months. There's just so many books.
Now that
so
we
little
talked,
time.
and I told you I ran across the story already when I went through my Audible library, so I will be downloading the book myself.
I appreciate that, and I've heard that the audio is that Bonnie Turpin does a really great job, is what I've heard. So yeah,
On the audiobook. Okay, well, wonderful. Thank you again for being a guest on the show. Have a great evening and continued success. And I hope it doesn't take a long time before you get your book deal for your second book.
thank you. All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we are right on time for our next guest. And I did mention that we are giving away The Other Princess by Denny S. Bryce, who is our next guest with her new book, Can't We Be Friends? And it is a book about the relationship between Ella Fitzgerald and a famous singer, for I hope the audience knows who Ella Fitzgerald is, but a famous singer, and Marilyn Monroe, a famous actress, during the time that they were friends, I guess. So Marilyn Monroe died in the 60s, so the time has to be before then. So let's see when Denny comes on screen.
I'm here.
Hi, okay.
How you
Denny.
doing?
How are you? And
Oh, I'm hanging in there. Let's say that. I got to switch glasses.
okay.
How are you doing?
Doing
You
great.
doing good?
You have been doing a lot of work because you've been on the show three times with three different books in the last, I want to say 18 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and when I saw this book, I said, she just put out the other princess, and we're giving away a copy of the other princess after the end of
Okay. That's
so,
nice.
yeah.
Yay, other princess.
So
which one are we talking? This is Crazy Pants. Which one are we talking about tonight? This one, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the one.
Okay, the brain is working.
Okay.
You know what?
Here
I'm
we
gonna
go.
tell you, we need somebody like you, because this is a 2-hour show. I'm in the DMV. It is not night. And sometimes we need somebody like you who comes on the show and just wakes everybody up.
who cuts up, because hey, I gotta cut up. Because for me, because they changed the time, and you'd think I'd be all perky and everything. But I'm like sleeping too late in the morning and want to go to bed at like 6 o'clock.
Where are you
working
located?
too much. Working too much.
Where are you located?
I'm in Savannah, where it is 75 degrees today.
Oh, wow. I used to live in that area. I used to live in Richmond Hill.
Oh, well, I'm not that familiar with Savannah. I've lived here for like 4 years from DC, but 2 of those years I didn't leave the house. And then I just didn't go no place. And then now I'm either where I am now in my office, or I'm heading to the airport, because I live out in Pooler.
Yes.
What they used to call Pooler, now they say it's Savannah. I don't know.
Oh, it's not anymore?
They keep changing the name of the town.
Oh.
I'm fine.
Say Richmond Hill is right outside of Savannah. So okay. I used to be, when I was in the Army, I was stationed at Fort Stewart. But
okay.
I lived in Richmond Hill, which was about 30 minutes away from Fort Stewart. And then everywhere I used to hang out in Savannah. And so that was about a 30-minute drive as well.
Right. Well, I live about 20 minutes outside of Savannah. I'm like 5 minutes from the airport.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I know exactly where you are.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually very convenient for my schedule lately.
Yeah,
as I said, I just jumped to the airport.
It's been building up.
Oh yeah. It's definitely the last year. Actually, for the next month, and next 3 months, I'm pretty much on the road and still have books to deliver and things like that, because it's very exciting. And talking about Can't We Be Friends, which I co-authored with my pal Eliza Knight. Yes. This book we were just so excited a week ago today when on the Today Show, Kennedy Ryan, the fabulous romance author extraordinaire, was on the show talking about the release of her new book. And she pulls up and talks about Nikki Payne's new book and this one. And we've been riding that high since. So it's very exciting.
That's awesome.
Have people be aware that the book is out there.
Awesome. You're getting mentions in big places.
Yes. And that helps so much. In addition to talking to you, talking about the book wherever we can. We're doing a tour. We'll be in Tampa Bay, Florida. We'll be in the DMV. I'll be in DC in a couple of weeks. I mean, we're just traveling all over the place, talking about the book. And we've gotten such fabulous feedback from readers, between Goodreads and people talking about the book on Amazon. One of the things that keep coming through from readers is the story is such an intimate tale of friendship between two women, and how that friendship helped their lives, or in a way that was not exploitive or over the top, to the best of each woman's ability, especially considering the time period. And one of the things that people sometimes don't get about historical biographical fiction is that it is fiction, but it's rooted in fact. And part of what Eliza and I did and spent a lot of time doing was research and finding things like the contract for the Friends album that Ella and Marilyn had planned to do together. And that didn't work out. Some of Marilyn's quotes about her favorite person, and her reference to Ella Fitzgerald. Ella, on the other hand, was a very private person. So to find her voice and her spirit, not only did I listen to all of her albums, but that wasn't new because I am a huge fan of music and jazz.
I remember you saying that with all of your books, you listen to the music of the time period.
No matter what time
period
it is I'm writing in, I'm listening to the music because and that keeps me grounded. Even if I'm going all the way back, like in The Other Princess, it starts, and I think in 1835 or 40 or something like that. But to go in and do research on the sounds of African music, West African music, and what were the instruments of that time period. And historically, they go back even further than that. If you do, the museums, the robber barons of museum, and that's a whole other thing that I can go on and on about. But it's just enjoyable to find that connection through sound and people and what they heard, what they listened to, what they ate, etc. So with Ella, I listened to all of her albums, but I paid special attention to her live albums because that's where her banter with the audience gave me some real insights to her personality. She was essentially soft-spoken. She wasn't a good interviewee. I mean, she's so soft-spoken, she rarely looked an interviewer in the eye, even later in life. She just wasn't comfortable in that context. But on stage, she commanded the stage. She knew every part, every musician on the stage with her turned to her to really know where they were in that particular number and where she wanted them to go. And then her banter with the audience was, she was surprising. She wasn't messing around. There's one in particular I recall that she was being given request after request. And she's like, look, that album came out 2 years ago. You should have bought it. Because she was done. It's like, I have sang that particular song. She didn't say what I'm about to say right now because now I'm just running my mouth. But the takeaway for me was she sang that song enough. If they want to hear it again, they need to go spend some money in addition to the money they spent for being there. So people, you think about an Ella Fitzgerald for the last 30 years, and the last thing, unless you're a jazz person, is the Memorex commercial. And in this book, she's in her 30s. She's a young woman. And again, most people, the memory is of her in her later life. And so it was just fun. And then working with Eliza Knight, it was really enjoyable because we really dug in on not wanting to overdo or redo the Marilyn story. We wanted to take a fresh approach. And for us, that meant she was an intelligent woman. She was well-read. She was very, very ambitious. She had a mind for how she wanted her career to look. She was also an addict. Today we understand and know addiction is an illness. But back in the 50s, I mean, a lot of people may remember a Judy Garland story. Hollywood was giving her, pills when she was 15, 16 years old, just to make sure she did things or was the right size or whatever it was. So there was a different attitude toward, taking whatever drug she was taking, how many ever drugs she was taking. So all of those things that we wanted to make sure really captured two women who were at the peak of their career and trying to stay there, trying to be relevant in the 50s when women had very little, they didn't have any thing that they could do for themselves. Power, yeah. There it is. The power was not theirs to hang on to. They were always being dismissed, And so ask me a question because I'm ramble. There, I'll just like
you're giving us some really good insight on this.
Yeah.
Well,
so what period was it that you cover in the book? What years were they?
Predominantly the 1950s, 1952 to 1962. The book begins with a prologue in 1972. In 1972, Ms. Magazine had a whole issue dedicated to Marilyn Monroe on the 10th, recognition of 10th anniversary recognition of her passing in 1972. Plus, I think it was their second issue as well. And Ms. Magazine was making a very powerful, strong statement during that time period as, the people who started it, Gloria Steinem. There was also an African-American woman who was a part of the Think Trust that developed that publication. I can't remember her name right now, but when that magazine and that issue was being put out in the world, they came to Ella and said, please, tell us about your memories of Marilyn Monroe. And that was something that we used, or that I used in that opening to say, this would be sort of a nice kickoff to the story, so that she can reflect back on that friendship and also where her life was at in the 50s. She'd been in the biz for 19 years by then, but the biz was changing. So she was constantly trying to remain relevant. That's also a period during which she started to do all those song books, Cole Porter, Berlin, blah, blah, blah. She did all the song books by the Broadway musical composers and writers of several generations, those masters, if you will, in that area. And that was the brainchild of Norman Gantz. And he was her second manager. I think her first manager, his first name was Mo. Can't remember his last name. I've written 2 books since I wrote this one. I'll start throwing out anybody's name in a minute.
I get it.
I swear.
Yeah, the timelines can be, the time with the big publishers, the time that the book is done.
Yeah.
versus when it comes out. It's normally roughly 2 years. It might be a little shorter, but
Yeah, it's according to how you're coming out and what's happening. I finished this book, or Eliza and I finished this book, probably 8 to 10 months ago. Okay. And then there's a whole
okay.
bunch of processes that go through, um, after you hand it in to your editors. And then we gear up for the promotional campaign and what have you. But there's always surprises, like you can't predict someone grabbing your book and loving it enough to mention it on the Today Show, or some of the articles and just the reaction response on the Goodreads. We have some lovely blurbs from fantastic authors who are out there. Everybody from our cover quote from Vanessa Riley. And we have a whole bunch of people who read the book and gave us some fantastic feedback. And that always feels good as writers, because you're sitting there saying, okay, we did it and we think it's fabulous. Our editors say it's fabulous, but then you're sitting there saying, will readers love it too? Because the readers are the ones who open their pocketbooks and say,
Really
I'm going to buy this.
decide.
Yeah.
The
And then
readers really decide.
yeah, they do. They
Mhm.
really do.
Mhm.
And that's readers and a good advertising campaign can always help.
Yes. Yeah. Mhm. But
Yeah.
even with advertising, if the readers don't really like it and talk it up, I mean, the readers can talk it up, or they can talk it down, or just not talk.
Right. Yeah, or not say a
Or
word.
not say anything.
Crickets.
So,
And you're
yeah.
sitting there saying, oh my God, oh my God, nobody cares. So, and that's real scary. Nobody cares. But I've been fortunate because my debut novel, I even have that baby here. I grabbed some novels while I was, yay, this was my first novel.
Yeah. Mhm.
And that's in 2021.
Yeah,
So
you've been writing up a storm.
I
And
have.
researching up a storm.
Yeah. Well, part of the reason is I've been fortunate enough to have contracts. And I shouldn't even say fortunate. Strategically, I've had contracts. So writing books is what I do full time. And that's good. That's good. Well, full time, I also teach, but I teach remotely an MFA program at Drexel University. Hello, students, everyone at Drexel. Lovely program. I love it. And then I don't do that much freelance writing anymore. A little bit, and I do a little less of the book critic role with NPR, but I still do a couple of things, a couple of times a year with them. I had the great pleasure of participating in the Savannah Book Festival as a moderator, and I got to talk to S.A. Cosby and two other gentlemen. S.A. Cosby wrote All Sinners Bleed, Razor Blade Tears,
Yes.
etc., etc. He's wonderful.
Mhm.
But I also was introduced to two novelists I wasn't familiar with, Charles Soule, who has a sci-fi time travel adventure book called The Endless Vessel that I fell in love with, and Greg Horowitz, who writes the Orphan X series. And I just stepped into that, I think book 7 or 8, I can't remember. And it was absolutely captivating. So, it was just fun to get into crime fiction, adventure fiction, a different genre, and then have an opportunity to talk to these gentlemen in front of like a packed house of 1,000 people. So it was a good time last month doing that sort of thing. And yeah, that's it. Yeah, I enjoy that. I enjoy books, so as much as I can surround myself with books and talking about books, writing books, just doing that thing, I'm pretty excited about it.
how did you settle on what made this topic come up? Who?
Well, we actually, in 2019, I was still living in the DC area, and that's where Eliza lives. And so, what we would do, what we've been doing for about a year or so back then, was alternating between different homes for once a month for a write-in, because the whole writing lifestyle is like, I'm by myself again. So it's kind of fun to just hang out and at different people's homes and write, and usually end up drinking wine. But writing is an important part of that experience.
I need to hang with you next time you're having these get-togethers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fun. But back in 2019, we were just messing around on the computer, looking at different things, and we ran across the Macombo Club. And there was actually a whole other story that we were digging into when we stumbled across the Ella Maryland photo that has been floating around for a long time. Of them, actually, it's the same one that has a version of which is on the cover. So we were like, what? Ella Fitzgerald, Marilyn Monroe, they were buds. Let's dig into the rabbit hole and see what we can find. And we were just digging and loving everything we found, and said, this is a book. Great friendship, two powerful, super talented women, Black woman, white woman, Black woman who was experiencing some of the to be expected racism, segregation, battles, but primarily what she wanted to do was sing. She wanted to be on stage. That's what she wanted. The other things fell, away. So, and there was this story out there on the internet that said she could not get a job at the Macombo Club because they didn't hire Blacks. Well, that was not true. They hired, Lena Horne had already performed there. Eartha Kitt had performed there. Dorothy Dandridge had performed there. But there's something in common with those three ladies that may not jump to your mind right away.
It did.
Okay, they're all size 6 or 7.
Well, that too, but they also
I know the other one. But
that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
But it was her size that the reason they didn't want to hire Ella.
Oh, okay. She was thick.
It's not stealth, And so it took, and the first club that she did in LA was not the Macombo Club. It was a place called Tiffany's. Tiffany's was on the other side, was a little bit off the strip. And that's where Marilyn had some influence, as well as later, because we found a letter that a secretary at the Macombo Club sent, I believe it was to Marilyn, Marilyn's secretary saying, is Marilyn still going to be here to do this party when Ella's here, blah, blah, blah. So we just put the story together. One of the things that's mentioned, I think I can give it away early in the book for those who haven't bought it yet, but you're about to go and buy it, is that Jet Magazine, Dear Jet Magazine, had an article, I think it came out in 1951 or early 52. And the cover story was famous fat women. That was the cover story on Jet Magazine. And inside that article was Ella Fitzgerald, among other African-American. If you're not familiar with Jet Magazine, it was one of the, for the people watching out there might be some youngsters.
Youngsters. It was the weekly. It was the weekly.
It was
the Black home
publication.
If you were in Jet Magazine,
weekly.
Places.
Yes, exactly. So that Jet Magazine was a resource. I mean, I went through a lot of Jet magazines
because it was weekly, and it focused a lot on music.
The entertainment industry,
the top 10 songs or top 20 songs,
and the photos.
Yes, and the
you know,
photo.
the photo of
Mhm.
the week, the photo of the month, what have you. Um, and that was a big part of it as well. And it was also a Chicago publication,
Yes.
and owned by, I
The
believe, the
sister to
Michelle
Ebony,
Johnson,
or yeah, yeah.
yeah, the Johnson family,
Yes.
and who also owned Ebony
Mhm.
magazine as well.
Mhm.
Um, but so in 2019 we found that, and we kept working on it, even though we were both writing different things. I hadn't even gotten a contract yet, or I'd just gotten the Wild Women in the Blues contract signed. So I had that book to put to bed, so to speak. Then I had another book, In the Face of the Sun. I had to get that book done. Meanwhile, uh, Eliza, who's a much faster writer than I am, is producing other projects, including her. She was also doing a fabulous book. She did the Mayfair Bookshop, but then after the Mayfair Bookshop, she did starring Adele Astaire, a novel about Fred Astaire's sister. So we were both busy, but we kept talking about Ella and Marilyn. We just couldn't stop working on it. And so then we said, let's tell our respective agents, because at the time we had we have different agents, but at the time I was with another agent. And so we were like, hey, this book is happening. You just want to have it. I know you do, and you want to sell it. And they were like, I don't know. And then they got excited about it over time. And then we wrote up, I think we had about 3 or 4 chapters, a huge proposal, beautiful document, la, 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 sent it off. Next thing you know, we got a contract. And then it was like, hurry, 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 hurry. So after all of that digging and research, we got it done. And then we had, one thing I love to say is that our initial work that we handed into our editor was a little bit longer than the book that people have in front of them today. So we were told to cut 30,000 words.
Ooh,
And
that's a lot of work.
yes!
That's a whole book.
That's a whole book. That's more than a novella.
Right? But that editor was spot on, because at the same time we wrote a lot of story that didn't put the real story is about friendship. And so we need to get to it. And we did a lot of other story that we're going to roll out in newsletters. People follow us because you're going to get other stories down the road. Probably not this year, but definitely going to add some things. But she was right. So right. But in overwriting, and I don't consider it really overwriting, I think we dug in and understood our characters, our story, these women even more. And that's what helped us deliver what I feel is a very, very good book, quite honestly.
Okay, well, we only have a couple minutes left. And so I have one last question. Rhonda, do you have any more questions for Denny?
No, I mean, I'm just enjoying listening. I mean,
Yeah, it's fascinating, all the research you all did. So I've never heard anything about Ella Fitzgerald's love life. And so I was wondering what
how did that
insight
come
you
into
have
the
about
story?
that. Is that
Well,
tied in or?
well, there's a YouTube interview that she did in the 80s. And the question by the interviewer was, how come you avoided scandal? And while so many other entertainers were, she said, I don't know. There was a time where I fell in love with a man in Norway, but we couldn't be in love because back then you couldn't be black and white couple. That's what she said. And and all of the other stuff that you see and reading the story, those newspaper clips exist. Every last one. So she wanted to be married. She wanted it all. She wanted kids. She wanted a house. She wanted a home. She wanted a husband. She wanted her career. And she didn't get all of it all at the same time. Later in life, we don't cover it in the book. I feel she did. She ended up moving to Copenhagen.
Oh,
She had a
okay.
house in, you know, she took care of herself. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Denny, you are just a wealth of information. And every time that you come on the show, we get a master class in whatever time period you're covering.
Oh.
And whoever is notable in that time. So,
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And
oh,
I have another book coming out in a few months. So
okay. I was gonna ask you.
But you need to come back when the new book is ready.
okay.
Yeah.
This one's an I'll talk quickly. It's called
Okay.
The Trial of Mrs. Rhinelander. It's based on another true story about a case that was sensational front page news in the 1920s, and it had to do with a very wealthy New York, millionaire kind of real estate guy who married a domestic and then decided to get an annulment when he caught wind of the fact that she might be colored. And that ended up being front page news. And it's called the Rhinelander versus Rhinelander case is what it's inspired by.
Oh, okay. You always finding stuff.
History.
But it's amazing. And I loved it. I love that people are unearthing
history. Yes.
And
lots of good stories out there. And
hopefully
if you've had Rashonda Tate and
she was on. Yeah, she was on 3 weeks ago or something.
Okay.
Yeah, so
fabulous book.
Yeah. We stay on top of it.
Okay. That's good.
Okay.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Denny. And when people get a chance, show the book cover one more time.
Oh, yes, please. Bye.
And we be friends.
That's Marilyn. That's Ella.
Yes, Ella Fitzgerald.
Eliza Knight and Denny S. Bryce. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot. Have a great evening, and we'll have you back on when the next book comes out for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so we are with our last interview, and we are going to do the trivia question for this book, and the first person who answers correctly gets their copy. It's The Other Princess by Denny S. Bryce, and this was the book that came out before the book she just showed you. So this book is about the goddaughter of Queen Victoria, and the trivia question about the book is, what was the goddaughter's name? And you need to give first, middle, and last name for the goddaughter. And if you do, the first one who gets it correct gets their copy of the book. So our final guest, this has been history night, but our final guest is he's making history, Marc Beausejour, and he just recently became or signed with the She Publishing. She Publishing, as you all know, if you watch the show, She Publishing is a friend of the show. We have authors who are signed with She Publishing on a somewhat regular basis. And Marc, we already knew Marc Marc was with us, Rhonda and I, in 2022 when we were at the Zeta Phi Beta Boule, and we had our book booth, our author booth, and Marc was with us then. And Marc came to last year's National Black Book Festival, and I guess that's where he met the She Publishing people, but he could have met them before. I don't know. But anyway, Marc, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
We have to go a little bit further back.
Okay, further back.
Yeah, Marc was one of our original audience members. He used to tune into the show every Tuesday. And
you are right.
And that's actually how we run the meeting. And he got to know the She Publishing family at the Black History Month Literary Weekend. And he got to know them then, and he saw how close they were. And then when then at the National Black Book Festival, he got to experience them again and saw how close they were, how close knit they were, how they supported each other. He was like, I need to be a part of this. And so I'm just so proud of Mark and everything that he's accomplished in the last few years. I've been following his trajectory over the last few years, and I'm just super excited. I'm glad you're on the show.
Thank you both for having me. Thank you, Gwen, for inviting me onto the show. I've actually wanted to be a guest in the Black Authors Matter TV show for years, and for me to finally be on here is a blessing. And Dr. Rhonda, thank you for having me. I know we've spoken a few times, and yeah, I did meet Shanita and the family of Sheep Publishing at the Black History Month Literary Weekend last year, and it was definitely an eye-opening experience for me, because I was embarking on a journey that at the time I was too proud to admit that I needed help. I always thought that I would have to do this solo. Whenever we embark on a literary journey as being an author, we kind of, especially me myself, I guess I have too much pride to ask for help or to try to be part of a family. But that was very nice of Shanita and her family to reach out to me, and it's been a great ride so far, and I'm thankful for every minute of it. And I do see the ascension in my career. I see now the requests are coming in of people wanting me to take part in their works, and that's been the most rewarding part.
That's great. Because you know what? Now, since Rhonda reminded me, because sometimes charge it to my head, not my heart. We have interviewed so many people on this show that I get, and weren't you online when we had the virtual book festival?
Yes.
I remember that. Okay, so now it's coming back to me now. And you used to tune into the show like in the early days when we were first online, because we did the festival virtually. And it was a few months after we started the show, because 2020 COVID hit, everything shut down. And so the show came out of COVID. I did an interview recently, and I hadn't had a chance to tell you about this, Rhonda. Someone from, I think she's going to be with Penguin Random House. She's writing a book about bookstores. And she reached out to me to interview me about because of the festival. She didn't realize I used to have a store, but she was asking me, was the show a result of George Floyd? That's what she asked me, because we did have the show a few months after that. But no, I told her no. The show was because of COVID, because we couldn't have the festival. And so many books and all kinds of stuff came out as a result of COVID. It's just, and now we're still here.
Still here. Exactly.
Yeah, we're still here because we're relevant and needed.
Absolutely.
And, platforms. One other thing I really like about the show, and I just think sometimes I think about it, but between Rhonda and I, we have a lot of history with the book business and experience. We have 30 years of history with the book business, which we can bring into the conversation. Like this stuff didn't just start happening today or last year. It's been happening for decades, but a lot of people don't realize that. And we're able to bring that in. So, Marc, let's talk about you and your books and how you got started writing. I know we were, when we were in Philly selling, you were telling me about the different books that you had. They're urban, the genre is urban fiction.
Yes. Okay. So basically, I know I just came in, so I want to reintroduce myself. My name is Marc Beausejour. I was originally born and raised in Queens, New York. I currently reside in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm the author of the newly relaunched Black Cyrano series. And the Black Cyrano series is a series that begins with the first book that I released back in 2015, which is titled The Preacher's Web. So basically, it's a story about an embattled former All-City, All-State football quarterback named Michael Hillman, who later becomes a pastor who services his community. But he's servicing a community that is ravaged by drug dealers, gangbangers, and teen prostitutes. And he's trying to preach a message of love and forgiveness in that community. And he finds himself in the middle of a huge web, not just a web of deceit and a web of his own past failures, but he's also found himself in the middle of controversy when he's called upon to testify against a boy who was accused of murder, and he knows that the young boy is innocent. So this asks us to question our morality or the morality of our spiritual leaders. I wanted to write a book that was controversial because a lot of us look at our spiritual leaders as people who are blameless, people that can do no wrong. And I wanted to kind of paint the preacher, not in a negative light entirely, but I wanted to paint a preacher that has his own battles to fight, his own faults. I believe it was Donnie McClurkin that says, "We fall down, but we get up," you know? And just want to paint a picture that even though he's done a lot of things in his past, he's trying to clean up so that he can help future generations. And in the meantime, I'm also intermingling the story with an account of a young boy who's trying to navigate adolescence in the streets of New York, which mirrors my own upbringing in New York, the basketball courts. That's why the title of the book has a picture of a basketball hoop with the goal, and then you see the red kind of outlining it. So basically, it's sort of like a book that was kind of like a memoir in sort of a way, but also it's a story, one of my first urban fiction mystery thriller novels that I've written. And it's definitely a book that actually helped create the other books in the series, but it starts off with this book, The Preacher's Web.
Okay. So then what's book 2? Do you have them all there?
I have them all there. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So book 2, I come prepared. You already know that.
That's good though.
So book 2 is
Okay.
Adia's Ballad. So Adia's Ballad is basically one of my favorite books of the series. And the reason I say this is because this book challenged me to write from a female perspective. I had to take on this challenge because in The Preacher's Web, basically there was a girl who was killed in The Preacher's Web by her boyfriend. So Adia's Ballad is basically the story about the sister of the girl that was killed in The Preacher's Web and how the sister struggles with the tragedy. And she's a natural singer. So basically she's a natural singer. So she used to sing to try to get over her grief. And at the same time, she's seeing a therapist, like a grief counselor, to help her get over her pain. But she's also seeing her sister in visions. So I always paint, some scenes where she sees her sister in dreams, and whenever she feels down or upset. One day, her singing gets the attention when she goes to a talent show, and her singing gets the attention of a major record exec, and then she gets signed to a major music label in New York. And then she blows up, and she becomes an R&B star. But then she finds out the dark side of the music industry. So basically, I did extensive research when I did this book, watching episodes of Unsung that used to come on TV1, and actually reading autobiographies of some of these artists. And I learned about some of the contracts that these record labels were giving these artists and how some of them were holding their money back, and then they weren't paying these artists. And as a result, the artists would basically be forced to indulge and then do different things, act out of character. Some of them get in trouble with the law. Some of them end up in tragic situations. So basically, Adia's Ballad basically summarized how Andrea, that's her real name, Adia is her stage name, how she navigates all of that in the music industry. And at the same time, I set it against the hip hop scene, because, I wanted to kind of paint, I'm sure y'all remember back in the 90s, they had the East Coast, West Coast battle type thing. So in this book, I painted like feuding record labels against each other. So this is one of my most favorite books, Adia's Ballad. And then the third book in the series. So after I wrote Adia's Ballad, I found myself being surrounded by different news of what's going on around the world. You got Trayvon Martin. You got Alton Sterling. You know, you have Philando Castile. Then you have Bill Cosby, which that for me, that was what set it off for me, was the Bill Cosby verdict, where all these women were coming out accusing him of different things. And I was just sick and tired of black men being accused or being wrongly killed by the law establishment. And I decided, okay, you know what? You know, I got to write about this. So after a few inspiration and watching some thriller movies, I came up with the idea to write Fires of Justice. So Fires of Justice is basically my first thriller novel, thriller social justice novel. It's about a teacher who basically moves from New York to Georgia. He gets a job teaching 11th grade English at a Metro Atlanta high school, but then he gets stalked and, you know, obsessed upon by a 16-year-old white girl that also happens to be his neighbor as well. And she pursues him relentlessly. And then after a confrontation turns physical, basically he gets arrested and he gets thrown in jail for something that he didn't do. So this book goes behind the psychological stuff that he goes through behind bars, and also the detective from The Preacher's Web, who's related to one of the characters in Fires of Justice, his wife. He's called upon to investigate a plot to actually frame this man to throw him in jail. So it actually goes, there's a whole web of stuff. And me, I've been known to have the occasional plot twist here and there. So I normally throw my readers into a little bit of suspense.
Oh, plot twist.
Where, yeah, you gotta love them plot twists. Rhonda knows what I'm talking about, so she knows what's up. But Fires of Justice, everywhere I go, each book event that I do, this and Preacher's Web always seems to be the one that people gravitate to the most. I always seem to run out of these books every time I sell. So this happens to be one of my bestsellers, personal bestsellers as well. So The Fires of Justice, one of my favorite books too. And then hang with me, y'all. So I do have a book 4. I have 6 books in the series so far. So yeah, so my 4th book is called Split Decision. So the inspiration behind this book, I had a membership at the UFit gym near my house, and I was doing boxing training with my trainer, and I love boxing training so much. I love boxing, so I love the intricate science of boxing. So I decided to create a story centered around boxing. So this story is about a middleweight contender by the name of Silvio Dominique, who's training for the middleweight championship. And in the midst of training for the middleweight championship, he gets involved with a Dominican girl who has dangerous ties, like gang ties, and also dangerous ties to his next opponent, who happens to be the champion. And then he's given an ultimatum because the powers that be don't want him to hook up with this girl. So now they're asking him to throw the championship fight. And then if you throw the championship fight, we'll leave you alone. You know, but if you don't throw it, then we're going to come for you. So that's why I call the book Split Decision, because he has to make a decision, and it's also a play on words. If you watch boxing, yes, when it comes down to a split decision, it comes down to a card count, or who wins, who has the most punches, etc. So that's why I named this book Split Decision. And then I also wrote the sequel to that, which is Split Decision 2. Split Decision 2, it follows Silvio some years later. He comes back from retirement, and he tries to regain his middleweight title back that was taken from him. So, but in the midst of that, his trainer goes through some, and in here I kind of take my reader through like mental issues, male mental situation, because his trainer goes through some situations where he doesn't know if he could train him again. And then I go back into his past. There's a lot of flashback in Split Decision 2. So this book actually took me longer to write than my other books in my series, because I had to study geography. I had to study like cities and locations, and there's a lot of more characters involved in Split Decision 2. So this is also part of the series as well. And last but not least, I have my last book, which is Street Retribution. So Street Retribution, actually, this actually is a continuation of The Preacher's Web and Adia's Ballad. And the reason I say it, even though all the books are part of the series, but Fires of Justice and Split Decision 1 and 2 are what I consider outliers, meaning that they're not directly connected to Preacher's Web and Diaz Ballad because they got different stories. So Street Retribution, I take my readers back to New York, back to the events that took place in Preacher's Web and A Diaz Ballad. So Street Retribution, there's a key court scene in the Preacher's Web where a key witness actually testified against the gang leader who was responsible for Lori's death. And then the gang leader gets locked up behind bars. Well, in Street Retribution, the gang leader somehow gets parole and he gets out of jail. And his first order of business to hunt the key witness down and to hunt everyone down. So there's a bounty put out on the key witness's head. And by this time, the key witness, he becomes a lawyer and he changes his name from Antonio Franks to Edward Reed. So now Edward Reed's life is in danger. So are the other gang members who turn their back against the gang leader, and they're basically being hunted. And so basically, it's also another crime thriller novel as well. And there's a lot of elements. There's romantic elements. There is some mystery element, and there's also some espionage elements, as you guys will see in the next book that I'll be releasing, which I would like to talk about as well on this platform, if it's okay.
And you're been busy.
Yeah.
Oh, I know I've been reeling off because I know I'm on a limited time frame, so I want to try to reel off all 6 books before I run out of time. So,
but no, she's saying you've been busy writing.
Oh, yes, absolutely, absolutely. Actually, after I wrote the next book that I have coming out, for everyone who's watching, my next book is titled Divine Vengeance. So Divine Vengeance is a continuation of Street Retribution. And basically, it's supposed to and I'll let my readers know, it is the last book of the series. So this will be the book that ends the Black Cyrano series, basically. So Divine Vengeance will basically wrap everything up because Street Retribution ends on a cliffhanger. So it's a cliffhanger ending. So that means basically I want my reader to know there's going to be a second part to it. So yes.
No, I was just going to ask, you've moved all of these books over to She Publishing.
Yes.
Did you make any changes to the books?
Absolutely. Well, I didn't change like the story. So the story is pretty much the same, but She Publishing was able to reformat them, put a different font, put a new layout, give it a more professional look, which is what I wanted. And they've been able to push the books more so than my previous publisher did. So so the layout is different. It's a more professional layout. It's clean. Not to say that the last publisher was dirty, but sometimes I like when I don't want to just put no disparagement on nobody, but
well, you didn't tell us who it was, so
yeah.
I want to keep them anonymous. Yeah, but basically, so She Publishing changed the font, they changed the layout, so everything looks. When my readers open my books, I want them to feel like they're reading a professional novel. You know what I'm saying? I want them to feel like they're reading something that's professionally done, professionally edited, So there were some soft edits done, and then there was some font changes. But other than that, it's still the same story, it's the same concept.
Okay. All right. So I was gonna ask, what is She Publishing? Your relationship with them? How did it change your trajectory, but also your outlook?
Like there could be some success for me in this authorship industry. That's what it is, to be honest with you. So the collaboration with She Publishing has been a godsend for me because they came to me at a point where I honestly was starting to question my career in writing, in my authorship journey, because so many times I felt like quitting because I wasn't seeing the financial benefit in it. And not because when I was doing the book signings, everything goes well because when I do the book sign, I sell pretty well, but then the momentum would die down when I'm not doing the signings, because between signings, my books were not being pushed. They were not being marketed. They were not being branded. So I wanted to be part of a family that was going to do that for me, even when I don't go to a signing, because I'm not going to be able to make every signing. But if I was part of a publishing family that says, we have this up and coming author who's written these books, and if you could support him, and then if you're a fan of urban fiction, thriller novels, this is right up your alley. So I just wanted to feel that togetherness, that family, that support. So that's why the relationship with She Publishing came at a time where I really needed it.
I think
Well,
that's great.
that
Yeah.
is great. And they'll be back again at the festival this year as sponsors. So, and she's bringing some of her authors. I don't know which ones, but, and I can't remember how I met Shanitha exactly, but it's been a great relationship and it's been mutually beneficial. And those are the kinds of relationships that work the best.
Absolutely. And what I like about Shanitha more than anyone is she will communicate with you on a daily. Like she is the first person I know. Like anytime she wants to let me know when an event is coming or if there's editing, how long the editing will take. Like she does things on point. Like the last publisher I had, sometimes I wouldn't hear from him for months on end. I wouldn't know what's going on. I wouldn't have no update. But Shanita is really good about, you know, keeping up and letting me know what's going on, keeping me in the loop. And that's what I like about her. Now I
That's
appreciate that.
what authors need in this industry, especially if you're a new author or if you want a need of some encouragement, like you were at that time. You need to know that your publisher cares about you and that you're not
Yes.
just part of a machine. So
Yes.
that's one great thing about Shanitha,
Yes.
which is why I enjoyed working with her myself. She always sends at least half of my authors for Black History Month Literary Weekend are going to
Yes.
be under the She Publishing umbrella.
Oh, well, and if I may, you know, before I let you go, by this time, Rhonda, look, I'm gonna tell you this before the interview ends. You can sign me up for next year. I'm going next year because I saw how great the event was this year, and I regretted not going. But I was looking at the pictures, and I saw the videos, and I was like, man. And I went last year. It was great, but I'm thinking that this year was better. You know,
Yeah, this
like I
year
said,
was good. Next year is gonna be even better.
yeah. So I can't wait. I cannot wait for that one.
Yeah, one thing I like about She Publishing when she brings her people, they are all very upbeat and positive. They are very all smiles,
Uh,
helpful, all of them to a person. And that's not necessarily a given.
When
no,
you have been promoting an event, putting it together, putting your blood, sweat, and tears in it, it's good to have people who are coming with smiles and encouragement.
Right.
yes,
And
yes,
not complaints.
and you know what? I want to shout out Shartia too because Shartia was actually one of those that helped sway my
Yes.
decision to join She Publishing. You know, because when she found out what my situation was with my previous publisher and I told her about my pay discrepancy and then the royalty situation and the lack of marketing. When I told her all this at the in Houston last year, she was like, "Oh, is this what you're going through? We can't have this. Nah. Here, you need to talk to Shanita." I said, "Okay." Because I was definitely by the time because my old publisher said that he was going to actually come to Houston to support me.
Okay.
Not one word. I didn't see him, and that was basically the nail in the coffin. That was it. And so I knew that when I left Houston, I was going to be part of She Publishing.
Well, unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the interview.
Yes.
However, I do want to know, you said that you have the new book that's coming out. When can we expect it?
So there has not been a solid date set in stone yet, but I'm anticipating the release of Divine Vengeance spring 2024. So be on the lookout because Divine Vengeance is coming. And when I tell my readers, especially my readers who have already gotten or have read Preacher's Web, I think it's valid, and Street Retribution, you are going to want to get your hands on Divine Vengeance because when I say it all comes to a head in Divine Vengeance, I really mean that. I mean, there's a lot of things that you're not going to expect, a lot of situations you're not going to expect, a lot of scenarios that's going to be unexpected. I mean, I think and I always put my all in every book that I write, Ron, you know that, but I think I went above and beyond in Divine Vengeance. When I say that I double, triple checked it and, a lot of early mornings waking up, reading, revising, pre-editing, all of that. So yes, Divine Vengeance, when that comes out, is going to be real good. And I can't wait.
Well, we're right up against the hour to end the show. So we want to let all of our viewers know that we love you and thank you for tuning in once again. The other Princess was won by Curtis Steverson. I checked the people who responded. So Curtis, your book will be in the mail. And we'll see you all again next week on another episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.